Welcome to IELTS with Rob. And last time we discussed about the speaking section, and in today's class we will be dealing with the listening section. And let's start with the format of listening. So in listening section, you will be having 30 minutes time, but you have to listen to the audio and answer the questions. And in case you are taking computer-based time, you will not have the extra transfer time of 10 minutes. But for the candidates who is taking paper-based test, at first you need to listen to the audio and write down the answers on the question sheet. And after the end of the audio, or by after 30 minutes, then you'll be given extra 10 minutes of time to transfer your answer from the question sheet to the answer sheet. So there is extra 10 minutes transfer time for paper-based test takers, whereas this time is not given to computer-based test takers. Okay? Because computer-based IELTS test, in that test, you directly write on the computer screen. Okay? You don't need to transfer the answer. So in IELTS, there are four sections in the listening module, and each section there will be 10 questions. So total questions will be 40 questions, and topics may involve sports, politics, history, or culture, etc. So in section one, there will be a dialogue between two persons, and the dialogue will be about everyday topic, everyday life activities like where is the library? These are the kind of dialogue that an international students uh, they use in situations that are common at that time. For example, for newly arrived students in the UK or some other universities, you might ask your friend about where about the library or where about the accommodation. Where can we find cheap accommodation? Where can you find the hospital, a police station, or the grocery store? So these types of dialogue happen in section one. In section two, it is a monologue. It's it's a one person speaker is talking about everyday topic. So both sections one and two deal with general everyday topics. In section three, you will hear a conversation with up to four different persons. Four different persons are talking about going to a picnic or organizing a campaign, fundraising campaign, and etc. So in section four, you will hear a lecture on a topic, usually an academic lecture. It might be on global warming. It might be using uh, green fuels. Might be on climate change or conservation of nature or politics or history of the language, etc. Both sections 3 and 4 deal with academic situations. And remember, audio is played only once in the listening section. So if you miss something, you pay. Okay? So do not do that. Don't get distracted and try to focus on what you hear. So when it comes to difficulty, section 1, 2, 3, and 4, difficulty level increases as the section progresses from section 1 to section 2, and section 2 to section 3, and section 3 to section 4. This way, section 1 will be the most difficult of all the sections, whereas section 4, sorry, section 1 will be the most easiest of all the sections, and section 4 will be the most difficult. Okay. So, talking about different question types, there will be different question types in the IELTS listening test. For example, number one is form or notes or flowchart completion. So in form, flowchart, or notes completion, there would be blanks which you should fill with the information you hear in the audio. And number two question types is multiple choice questions, where you have to select multiple answers which you think are correct based on the information you hear in the audio. Number three is sentence completion. Again, you have to complete incomplete sentence by the information that has been captured from the audio. Number four is like labeling a diagram or a map where you have to name different parts of an image which is presented in the question. Number five is classification, where you have to uh, allocate different items into different categories. Okay. Uh, for example, if there are categories like 0 to 1 years old, and 1 to 5 years old, and 5 to 18 years old, and 18 and above years old, and greater than 50 years old, or 40 years old, then there will be items like youth, or child, or infant, or elderly people. So you have to put like infant, you have to categorize, you have to put it into under the heading of 0 to 1, and child maybe 1 to 5, and teenager you have to put like 1 5 to 18 or something. So in this way you have to categorize. Other example would be like fruits, vegetables. Okay. If there are two categories, you have to put like apples, oranges under the category of fruits, and cauliflower, spinach under the category of vegetables. So you have to classify. It's pretty easy. And another is matching. You have to match the correct combinations. And lastly, there will be short answer questions where you have to answer in one word. There will be given some words. So you have to answer these questions in one or few words. So note there is no negative marking in the IELTS. So don't leave any question unanswered. Unlike PTE, where you will be having negative marking, will be given negative mark for any incorrect answers. In case of IELTS, you will not be given -1 for each wrong answer. Okay, so try to always write something. Try to make an educated guess. Try to write something from what you remember. So sections 1 and 2. In sections 1 and 2, listen for main ideas. Okay. Listen for main ideas and listen for factual information. Like, to try to remember for date of birth, phone number, or names of person, or that type of information you have to look for in sections 1 and 2. In sections 3 and 4, you have to take care of the main idea, what they are trying to say. Especially, you have to comprehend the attitude of the speaker, the opinion of the speaker relating to the subject matter, like whether the speaker is agreeing or disagreeing, whether he or she is optimistic or pessimistic, and so on. And strategies for listening. So before listening, try to follow the audio instructions, okay? And try to predict what is this audio going to be about. For example, uh, when you are given some time to read the questions, let's say from 1 to 5, use that time in underlining some of the important keywords in the questions. Okay. For those of you who don't know what keywords are, you can think of keywords as an important piece of information in a sentence without which the sentence is incomplete or does not make sense. Okay. And those words mostly belong to either nouns, verbs, adjectives, or adverbs. Okay. So keywords are not articles or like a or an, the, but these are also not a preposition like on, over, under. Okay. Besides this, most of the words that will be what keywords. To try to underline the keywords while you are given some time to read the questions from certain number to certain number. For example, 1 to 5. So while you underline these keywords, you will have some idea about what this conversation is going to uh, talk about. And that way you can predict or you can think or you can gear your thinking towards that subject matter. For example, if you underline in number one, if you underline food, number two, if you underline delicious, number three, you underline like pizza, and number four, you underline culinary, number five, you underline cuisine, and number seven, you underline bills. Then, after underlining all these words, uh, it should come to your mind that the conversation is going to be about some food in a restaurant. So that way, you can more focus your attention towards that type of environment and you can predict what they are going to say. Okay, that way uh, you can harness your thinking. You can that way you can easily predict the answers. Okay, so always try to do that. And while you listen, get ready to hear. Be attentive and try also to make a habit of listening and reading questions as simultaneously. You need that. And I tell my students in the class lecture most of the time, like um, this listening section is like standing in the middle of a river and fishing with a fishing rod. Okay, and so the fish, as it swims close by, try to catch that fish. Okay, and because if you miss it, it will go upwards, upstream. Okay, and don't try to run after something you have already missed. Because if you do that, you will miss the current answer, answers to the current question also. You'll miss another question, an answer to another question also. You'll keep on missing. So if you miss something, just let it go, just move on. Okay. Now, after listening, try to ensure that your answers are correct. The way to do that is double check your answers and make sure you transfer your answers to their corresponding numbers or respective numbers in the 10 minutes time, okay, in the 10 minutes time. So try to do that. While transferring, you have to take care about the spellings and make sure that the answers are transferred to the correct numbers. And instructions sample, like the instructions you will hear in the audio, will be something like this. We'll be given some time to look from questions 1 to 5. There is 30-second pause And now recording is played for section one, and then you have to answer questions from one to five. So make use of that 30-second pause for underlining important keywords in questions one to five. That way, you can predict what the conversation is going to uh, be about. So predicts before the audio begins, you'll be given some time to read questions from Acts to 1. Is this time to predict the conversation? Think about the situation, who is going to talk, what they are going to talk about, where, why, the vocabulary, what sort of vocabulary will they be using? Try to discuss the topic and vocabulary, predict the topic and vocabulary. So while answering, think about the answers are usually in the same order as the order in question 50. That means the answer to the number one question will appear first, and then the answer to the number two question and three questions, they will come later in a sequence, okay, one after the other, okay, mostly in sections one, two, and three. But in section four, it might be a little bit tricky. Okay, you have to be careful. We have to watch out for that too. So look for answers that are synonyms or expressions with similar meaning. Usually, in the audio, they will be using synonyms that are words which are different in structure but have a similar meaning. For example, in the question, it might be written that answer true or false. And the question might read like, the ring was elegant. And in the audio, you might hear something like this. Oh, ring is beautiful. Okay. Now you have to be sure and you have to know that the word beautiful means the same as elegant in the question. That means these are synonyms. And that means this piece of information is correct or true. Therefore, question is right or true. Okay, statement is true. So in this way, you have to be confident in selecting your answer, writing the answer. Don't panic if you missed an answer. Just move on, mark it, and come back later. After completion, check if your answer is right. And the best way to think about whether your answer is right or wrong is to check logically and to check rhythmically and grammatically. Okay, so you should make sure that your answers are correct logically, grammatically, and rhythmically. Okay, so for those of you who don't know about what is being grammatically right, what is being logically right, or what is being rhythmically right, uh, you might want to like think about something like this. Let me see. Let's put some slide here. Okay. So what is being like grammatically right, logically right, or rhythmically right? So being logically right, grammatically right, and rhythmically right, that is an important concept that we come across in reading section as well. Logically right. Okay. So what does it mean when to be logically right? For example, you might have a question like is is a dash is a there is a let's say there is a dash on the it, grammatically right means what it means to be logically right. For example, you might have an option like house. B you might have like mouse and mouse and C you might have like kid. Now logically right and grammatically right. Logically right and grammatically right. So you might have this question. Now you need to fill in this blank and what it should be. Now, If you take a look on this question, you can see here, we can already see what all are equal. That means you can already predict there should be some noun, okay? And there cannot be verb or number or adverbs or adjectives and so on. So only the option that will be suitable here will be a noun. And when you take a closer look on this, you can see here, house is also noun, mouse is also noun, mouse is also a noun, okay? And cake is also a noun, okay? And you might have here another options like eating. And eating is a verb. So we know that we need a noun here and not a verb, okay? So therefore, we have to go with either house, mouse, or cake. But you see, when we talk logically, then only cake will be suitable answer in this gap and not others, although they are now. Because usually we put a cake on the plate and not house on the plate. So cake would be the correct answer. Okay? So in this way, you need to make a guess or make the choice of an answer which are correct logically and grammatically. Okay? So and another question type is also you should ensure that your answers are rhythmically correct. Okay? What does it mean of being in rhythm? Okay, that's another part. So being rhythmically correct means your answer should be rhythmical. Rhythmic. So rhythmically correct, rhythmically right means your answer should be in rhythm. For example, uh, let's say let's say he they were they were dancing, comma eating, and so now there is a blank. Now your options are like play. Number two, the options could be to play, and the third options could be to sing. Okay. So now you see here that if you follow the rhythm, the best option will be what? Play. Because these all are in what? ing form or gerund form, right? And these two options are in which form? To infinitive form. So you have to go with the flow, like the rhythm of a guitar, okay, while playing the music. So that it sounds in some flow. Okay, so playing would be the right answer. Dancing if you have. Yeah. So in this way, you should be you should ensure that your answers should be what? Number one, grammatically right, logically right, and number three, what? Oh, rhythmically. In this way, if your answer in the blank passes this litmus test, then you should be sure that your answer is what? 100% correct. Okay? It's like more than 99.9%. Let's keep 0.1% for some errors. Might, there might be some cases. But mostly you should rest assured that your answer is going to be 100% correct. That is the formula for this what? Logically right, logically right. Always check with these three litmus tests. Litmus tests. Okay. So now after the audio, after the audio, uh, after the audio, you will be given 10 minutes time to transfer your answer from the question sheet to the answer sheet. Now, When you transfer your answer from the question sheet to answer sheet, then uh, then make sure that you don't have any mistakes in your spelling, because IELTS is all about spelling. You should have a great, correct spelling. And also make sure you copy to the correct question number. Don't copy your answer of question number one and put it in the blank of question number three. Or don't copy your answer from question number 10 and put it in question number 20's answer, okay, in the answer sheet, on the answer sheet. That means you have to correct, you have to transfer write your answer in the corresponding numbers, okay? Don't mismatch, otherwise you will lose the score. And also don't try to forget copying an answer, okay? While you transfer, while at the end of the listening test, especially in the paper-based test, you will be given 10 minutes time to transfer your answer from the question sheet to answer sheet. And while doing so, make sure that you correctly transfer your answer to their corresponding numbers. Okay. And so copy the answer carefully from the question sheet to the answer sheet. So we already discussed about being logically right, grammatically right, and rhythmically right. Okay. Now, listening section one, there will be 10 questions, and you have to pay attention to telephone numbers, places, and dates. Okay, be careful about it. Now, in MCQs, that says choose the correct letters. You should answer in letters, not in words. Okay. Most of the students, they score very poor in the IELTS test because simply it's not because they don't know or they don't have knowledge or information or like that, but because they don't follow the instructions. And the golden rule is you will improve your answering scores if only you follow the instructions. And if you follow the instructions perfectly, there is 80% chance that you will end up with great scores. Okay. So always stick by the instructions. So in MCQs, if that says choose the correct letters, you should choose the answers in the letters and not in the words. For example, here we can see the question says the capital of France is, and the options are A, Paris, B, Lisbon, C, Kathmandu, and D, Vienna. And as per the instructions, we have to choose the letters, and the correct letter will be what? A, that is Paris. Now, some of the students, they end up writing Paris, Paris. And although we know that that is the right answer, but there is a great risk. There is more than 80% of chance that you lose a score on this because you didn't follow the instruction. The instruction was simply saying to write down A and not Paris, Paris, not words. It was saying for you to write down your answers on letters in letters. Okay, so always write down A and not Paris, Paris. That way you risk your score, losing score. And another thing you should take care of is always try to listen for paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means saying the same thing but in your own words or in different words. Okay. It is just exactly opposite of what it means to copy and paste. So always try to pay attention to the whole sound rather than individual words. Okay. Always try to listen for paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means in the audio, it might say that Ram is a hardworking student, or maybe Henry is a hardworking student. And in the question, they might ask you whether it's true or false. Henry is an industrious guy. Okay. Now, For those of you who know the meaning of industry as hardworking, then they will simply uh, simply state that the statement is true, okay, because they already know these synonyms. But for those of you uh, who do not know the synonyms, or they don't have got good vocabs, they will lose this score. They will not understand that these two statements are saying the same thing. So paraphrasing means to say the same thing in different words or forms. And another thing in listening is always try to pay attention to the whole sound rather than individual words. For example, I got to go may sound like I gotta go. Okay. So in this case, you see, I gotta go is different from I got to go. Okay, try to think of this type of reductionism also. Understood? So because especially the Americans, they try to reduce these types of words, they try to save their time. American people value time, so Westerners, they value the time. That might be the reason you hear this type of reductionism in your language. So try to be aware of this type of reductionism. And especially myself, when I was in the US, I faced this type of situations or faced these types of uh, conversations where people use mostly like short forms, especially in the text, like thank you, they will write TU, or um, as soon as possible, they would write ASAP, okay, and so on. You see, so, uh, the most notable of this type of acronym is thanks God it's right. They will simply write TGIF. You know, it's so popular that there are a lot of restaurants named under TGIF. So you have to be careful about what might it sound in their native accent or native language. Or native accent, language is already English, but native accent, how they might say in their different accents. Be careful about that. So another important question in listening section is about the maps. So while in the maps, you see, you have to know that you should not take off your pen above the paper if you are giving your exam on the paper-based test in a paper-based module. Okay. Don't take it off the notebook, because if you take it off, especially in the maps type of question, okay, in this type of question in the maps, you will not know where you ended up or where you are. Okay, it will be a hard time for you to look at. For example, if you were to start at point A in this picture or in this map during the start of the audio, and suddenly you lifted your pencil off the notebook, now how would you figure out where you were or which point you left last? Okay. You will not find out, means where the speaker already reached. The position would be different if you are at purple star as compared to the position at yellow star. Okay, the left from the position of the purple star would be end up in a different place than the left from the position of the yellow star. Okay, so don't lift your pencil off the paper while you are hearing to the instructions about a map in a listening section. Okay, because you will end up in the different wrong answers. So while listening, try to follow the speaker's attitudes and opinions. For example, whether the speaker agrees or disagrees. For example, listen to the phrases like, I'll say, count me in means agree. Okay. And try to listen to idioms. Okay. Well, like, what a close call. Okay. And by leaps and bounds, okay, uh, hills overhead. So this type of idioms and phrases you need to learn, you need to understand and find out their meanings. There are ample of these types of resources in the internet where you can Google search and find out uh, what uh, these phrases or idioms really mean, okay? So that you will understand the conversation easily because these people they use a lot of idioms and phrases during their conversation. So another important thing to look for in the listening section are the plurals and past endings. So try to listen for the plural sounds like 10 chairs versus 10 chair. Okay, we already know that 10 it means plural. Okay, so it should be 10 chairs and not chair. So if you forget to write as, or if you don't write as, then your answer would be what? Wrong. So try to use the correct past forms also. Know how words are pronounced differently in their past forms. Like believed, you'll sound it will sound different from marketed or marked. Okay. Although these all words end with the ed sound, note how differently they are pronounced. So try not to misspell them while you hear the audio. Another thing to look for is the voices, okay, or the voices. Try to identify the speakers by noticing their voices. In a telephone conversation, for example, the the color, color is usually heard with a loud voice or louder voice, whereas the receiver will have lower voice. Okay? You might sound color will sound like hello, and the receiver on the other hand will sound like hello. But you see, you have to figure out this difference in their volume and identify who is the caller and who is the receiver. Another important thing in listening and also in reading equally well is the signpost word or the signpost words. Signpost words are so named because they act like signposts in the crossed streets, okay, or on the roadway, roadways. They would tell you direction of where the conversation is going and direction of the audio or of the text in case of the reading section. So various signpost words are, but, however, although, despite, even though, however, even though, because of, because of, in spite, not only, but also, in addition, first, second, third, in summary, conclusion, to sum up, to wrap up, etc. And note, the signpost words are also known by the name of cohesive device or cohesive tools in case of writing sections. And the function of these signposts in reading or listening sections are to show you the direction of the conversation. For example, last year Matthew was at the door receiving the guest and ensured that the guests had enough food and were seated properly. However, this year he will be replaced by Christina, as he is on a sabbatical. Okay. Now, here the word, however, changed everything upside down. Okay. So, for the question, this year, who will be receiving the guest? One, Matthew, two, Christina. The correct answer will be B, Christina, because the war, however, changed everything upside down. So, this brings us to the end of listening section. I think you enjoyed the session. If you have any question, please do leave in the comment and please do not forget to subscribe for future courses. And thank you so much for your attention.